Perhaps in marriage, what weighs most heavily on many couples is the anger that is never let go. Anger often doesn't begin with something big. It usually starts with something very small. A careless word, a long silence, or just a difference in the way of thinking. Yet if these little things are not resolved, they slowly pile up and turn into an invisible wall, separating two people who once loved each other deeply. Anger between husband and wife is like a fire. When it flares up, it burns away. Understanding burns away love and leaves ashes in the hearts of both. Words spoken in anger can become wounds that take a very long time to heal. Sometimes they never fade at all. That is why the wise do not hold on to anger, because clinging to it is like holding hot coals in your hand. You only end up burning yourself. Letting go of anger does not mean weakness, nor does it mean silently enduring pain. Letting go is an art, the art of saving happiness, of protecting the home. Because if we choose to hold on to our pride, to insist on winning, what we lose is not just an argument, but the peace of the entire family. My friends, today, we will dive deeply into this topic to see clearly why letting go of anger is so important and how to truly transform it within married life. Welcome to Buddhism Seeds, where we learn, share, and nurture happiness together through the wisdom of the Buddha. If you find this message meaningful, please subscribe, like, and share, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. That is how you can help spread positive energy to even more people. And now, to begin, let me tell you an old Zen story called The Lantern, a simple story, yet one that holds a profound lesson about how to dissolve the darkness of anger in marriage. The lantern, the light of understanding in marriage. In a small riverside village, there lived a poor couple in a humble house with a low thatched roof, thin bamboo walls, and an old wooden door that creaked whenever the wind blew. They worked in the fields as laborers and took odd jobs at the market. Their meals were plain and simple day after day. Yet what weighed down the home was not the lack of rice or money, it was the endless small arguments that repeated over and over like steady rain soaking into the ground. It always began with little things. She scolded him for being late to dinner. He complained that the rice was overcooked. She blamed him for spilling a basket of fish. He grumbled that she talked too much. Words flew back and forth. Faces flushed hot breaths, grew sharp. The words themselves were nothing but once spoken. They stuck like thorns in the heart, painful to pull out, bleeding if left in. At night, the house fell into darkness, filled only with the chirping of crickets and the sound of the river lapping at the shore. They turned their backs to each other, each one wrapped in their own shadows. In the early morning, as dew still clung to the grass, he carried 2 buckets down to the river. The water was cool, but his heart burned hot. He remembered their early days, her laughter bright as sunlight, his strength like the wind, and their shared belief that just holding hands would be enough to overcome anything. But now, even a simple touch felt heavy, as though an invisible stone had settled between them. One evening, an early rain came. He took shelter under the awning of a small general store. Inside, a soft yellow lantern glowed warm like an embrace. The shopkeeper had hung several paper lanterns, their bamboo frames holding small, steady flames that breathed calmly without flicker. He stood staring for a long time. In that gentle light, he suddenly saw her face again as it had been on their wedding day. Her gentle eyes, her hair still carrying the scent of sunlight. A thought slipped into his mind. Perhaps our home needs a lantern." He hesitated. With what money? Every spare coin was already stretched thin for rice. Yet strangely, the flame in his eyes burned brighter than the lantern itself. He asked the price. It wasn't as high as he had feared. The shopkeeper carefully wrapped the lantern, explained how to light the oil, how to hang it so the wind wouldn't snuff it out. Carrying it home, he walked slowly through the muddy road, holding it tightly, as if protecting something fragile. When he reached the door, she saw the oiled paper bundle. "Another useless thing you've bought." Her voice was sharp. He wanted to argue, to insist that a lantern is as necessary as rice, but instead he stayed quiet and simply said, "Wait until tonight, you'll see." She pursed her lips and turned away. Shadows stretched across the floor as dusk faded from the walls. Night fell. The house swayed like an old boat, moored at shore, rocking in the wind. He hung the lantern on the beam, lit the wick. The flame caught slowly, like a soft breath. Then a thin golden glow unfurled, smooth as silk, first flickering, then filling the space. Warm light brushed gently across the wooden beams and bamboo walls, revealing the marks of countless seasons. The house suddenly seemed alive again, refreshed. She lifted her head. In that light, his face no longer looked harsh. The furrow between his brows softened. She noticed a new silver hair at his temple, fine as a thread of mist. Her heart sank gently. Since when has he carried such burden, she thought. And he, looking at her hands, saw that they were more calloused than before. Her nails chipped small cuts from the kitchen knife marking her skin. He remembered that the late meals weren't from laziness, but because she had run back and forth, caring for the frail old neighbor. The golden light seemed like a long sigh. It said nothing, but it made them want to listen. There were no grand apologies, no accusations. Just two people, for the first time in a long time, sitting down beside each other. They listened to the rain falling on the roof, the wind weaving through the bamboo fence. They listened to the steady beat of their own hearts, slowing down. She placed a kettle on the stove. The small blue flame flickered beneath it, livelier than the lantern's glow. The water boiled. She poured him a cup of plain tea, thin as rain, warm as fire in the hands. He accepted it with both hands, blew gently. Steam clouded his old glasses. He smiled. "It's been so long since we sat down for tea." She smiled too, her smile fresh as a budding leaf. They did not reopen old disputes. They did not add up old debts. The lantern's glow was like a thin line holding back the heavy army of memories trying to march in. They looked at each other longer than their words had ever lasted. In her eyes was his reflection. In his eyes was hers. In both, the quiet flame above reflected softly, steady and small, yet strong enough to light the darkness. Outside the porch, the rain had stopped. The wind blew, and the lantern swayed gently, as if nodding. He cupped his hand around it, afraid it might go out. She reached out to help, and their hands touched. The touch was so light, yet something seemed to fall away. Perhaps the armor of pride, perhaps the heavy stone of resentment. It made no sound as it fell. Only their hearts felt lighter. She looked up at the lantern. "It's beautiful," he replied. "It's not beautiful because of the lantern. It's beautiful because we're willing to sit still." She softly agreed. In her mind appeared the memory of dark nights when each of them curled up like a hidden coal, waiting for a gust of wind to flare into fire. Suddenly, she understood coals don't burn on their own unless someone fans them. Her words, her looks, her stubbornness, those were the fan. They sat a while longer. Wisps of tea, steam thinned into the golden glow. From time to time, the flame licked the wick, making the light pulse like a heartbeat. He asked gently, "Tomorrow, shall we wake a little earlier? Go to the river before the sun rises?" She nodded. Yes. In that yes was a small wooden bridge spanning the silence between them. That night, they slept under the dome of light. No more turning their backs. No more sighs heavy as stone. The house, though old, suddenly felt wide. The darkness was still there in the corners under the bed, but the light was enough to keep it from taking over. In the morning, they woke with the dew still clinging, rehung the lantern, and wiped it gently as one might smooth a child's hair. She scooped water for him to wash his face. He wrung out the cloth carefully, as if holding something precious. The day began again. The same work, the same road, the wind still blowing from the familiar bend in the river. But one thing had changed. Whenever a sharp word began to rise, they both glanced up at the beam where the lantern had hung the night before, and their voices softened, as if inside another lantern had been lit, one that needed no oil, feared no wind, only a little remembering. At night, they lit the lantern again. Golden light poured over the simple dinner, making even a bowl of wild green soup seem fragrant. She told him the neighbor had recovered. He told her about the potter at the market who ruined a batch of jars and sat the whole afternoon scraping each flaw away. If he can be that patient with clay, then for us, all it takes is holding back one harsh word. She laughed, and this time her laughter was longer, fuller. Rumors about the lantern spread through the village as a small wonder, not because the lantern was beautiful, but because since it appeared, that house no longer rang with arguments. Someone asked for the secret. He only smiled. Anyone can buy a lantern. But the light, you must kindle it yourself. She added kindle it by truly looking at each other. People listened, then forgot. But sometimes, passing by their door, they would glance at that soft golden glow, and their steps would slow. The lantern grew old over the years. The oiled paper darkened the bamboo frame, scratched. Sometimes they replaced the wick, refilled the oil. Each time, they reminded each other, don't let it run dry. The words sounded like they were about the lantern, but in truth, they were about the heart, because they understood anger never disappears once and for all. It only recedes when each day a drop of understanding is poured in. There were nights when strong winds blew. The lantern shook wildly, nearly going out. They rushed to shield it with their hands. At times, the flame hissed and died. The house sank back into darkness. In that moment, they felt their hearts race. He struck a match in silence. She handed the oil. The flame sprang up, tiny, trembling, then steady. Together, they exhaled. Out, then lit again. Anger, then understanding. Night, then light. Marriage, perhaps, is just like that. And though no words were spoken, they both knew what saved them was not something bought at the market, but the first moment they had been willing to sit still and look at each other with eyes no longer blazing. From that day, they lived in a house as poor as before, but with something far richer light. That light could not drive away all the darkness of life, but it was enough for their hands to find each other, for their words to choose gentler paths, for their anger when it came to know where to dissolve. One lantern, one quiet evening, two peaceful eyes. That was all. But in that, all the darkness that once reigned quietly withdrew. And each night, as the flame breathed softly, they reminded themselves, do not feed the darkness. Keep the light alive. Because once the light of understanding is lit, the darkness of anger by itself will fade away. In marriage, the darkness is not poverty, nor is it a lack of material things. The real darkness is anger, resentment, and the absence of understanding. You may have a big house, luxury cars, and full bank accounts, but if peace does not dwell in that house, then darkness still covers it. Have you ever felt yourself sitting in a room full of lights, yet inside your heart it was foggy and cold? That is the darkness of the soul, the darkness born of anger and distance. When husband and wife cannot understand each other, cannot forgive each other, that distance is no different from a room without light. The Buddha taught that anger is a fire that can burn away all virtues, consuming even the hard-won happiness we have built. That fire does not only burn love, but also brings suffering to everyone living under the same roof. The question is, why do couples who once loved deeply, who once promised to walk together for life, end up as opponents? Why do words of love from the beginning turn into heavy words of blame? The deeper cause does not lie outside, it lies in each heart. Anger arises when we cling too tightly to our ego. When you believe you are right and the other is wrong. When you feel you are hurt and the other deserves blame. When you want to win the argument instead of protecting peace for both. The Buddha taught, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned first. You see, anger does not only harm the other person, it scorches your own heart. The lantern in this story was not merely an object to push back physical darkness. It was a symbol of wisdom, of understanding. When the light was lit, not only the house was brightened, but the hearts of husband and wife were illuminated. Do you see how even a small light can drive away darkness? How just a little understanding, a little compassion can dissolve so much tension. The husband and wife in the story did not need long conversations or elaborate apologies. They only needed to sit quietly, let the light spread, and allow themselves to see each other with peaceful eyes. In marriage, that light is mindfulness. When you breathe mindfully, speak mindfully, act mindfully, you are lighting a lantern in your heart and in your home. This story gives us 3 important lessons. Instead of feeding the darkness, kindle the light of understanding. If you hold on to anger, the darkness thickens. But when you open your heart and look deeply into your partner's suffering, you are lighting a lamp. A small change can transform a relationship. Don't wait for something grand to call it change. A simple apology, a gentle hand to hold a silence full of understanding, these are enough to begin anew. Love does not need grand promises. It needs the daily light of mindfulness. A lasting marriage is not built on lofty commitments, but on the moments you return, care for each other, and nurture understanding. Today, many young couples face marital crises not because of money, but because of a lack of understanding. Technology advances, comforts abound, yet their hearts lack light. They become easily irritable, easily angered, and rarely take the time to truly listen to each other. You may find this image familiar, a husband and wife sitting together in the living room, each absorbed in their own phone. The blue glow of the screen spreads, but their hearts remain in darkness. They are close in distance, but far in spirit. The lantern of the old story is a reminder for today. It teaches us that real light does not come from phone screens nor from material comforts, but from understanding between 2 people. When you pause, set the phone down, look into each other's eyes, and truly listen, at that very moment, the lantern is lit in your hearts. Part 2. Causes of anger. In marriage. Marriage is a place where two people, strangers in family background, different in environment, habits, and ways of thinking, come together under one roof. At first, love often makes everything sweet and easy to accept. But when real life sets in, when food, clothing, money responsibilities, and daily friction appear, small differences become the seeds of anger. I want to go straight to the root. Why is anger so quick to flare up in marriage? Each person enters marriage with a different baggage. How you grew up, how your parents taught you the cultural environment that shaped you. These create your own views, beliefs, and ways of thinking. When two such people meet, fall in love, and live together, differences become unavoidable. At the beginning, you may find those differences interesting, but when it comes time to decide on shared matters, raising children, spending money, relationships with both sides of the family, those differences become the source of conflict. One prefers saving, the other leans toward enjoyment. One believes in strict parenting, the other believes in freedom. If opposing views are not heard and harmonized, they quickly turn into irritation and frustration. Sometimes it's something very small, choosing a dish, arranging household items, or deciding where to go on the weekend. Yet from something small, it expands into a long argument. In anger, you no longer see it as a difference of opinion. You see it as opposition, as disrespect from the other person. The Buddha taught that every perception is shaped by countless conditions. If you understand this, you will see that your spouse is not intentionally opposing you. They are simply living out the conditions, customs, and habits they have experienced. Seeing this way, you become gentler. But if you cling to, "I'm right, you're wrong," then conflict becomes like wind to fire, growing bigger and bigger. Think about it every day. People face job pressure, financial worries, and social responsibilities. When stepping out of the house, everyone wears a mask, a polite smile, patience with coworkers, endurance with a superior. All that tension when they return home, the place considered safest, often erupts strongly. Have you noticed that many arguments aren't about what happens at home, but about pressures carried in from outside? After a tiring workday, even a simple question asked at the wrong time can spark a flame. After a month of overspending, one offhand comment about money can ignite a prolonged fight. Financial stress is one of the biggest reasons marriages crack. When money is tight, people easily blame each other. You don't provide enough for the family. You spend wastefully. Such words are like arrows shot at self-esteem, triggering explosions of anger. The Buddha taught that the causes of suffering are greed, anger, and delusion. When facing financial pressure without mindfulness, ambition, fear, and resentment will control your emotions. But if you can see everything as a flowing river, understanding that hardship is only a phase, you won't dump all responsibility on your spouse, nor turn your home into a place to unload anger. In all relationships, especially marriage, listening is the bridge that brings two hearts closer. Yet there is a sad paradox. People prefer speaking to listening. While the other person is sharing, you think you're listening, but in your mind, you're already preparing a counter-argument. Your ears are open, but your heart is closed. And so their words fall into a void, never reaching you. Notice that when we are not heard, we feel lonely, even in our closest relationship. Your spouse sits beside you, but the heart is miles away. Loneliness in marriage is the deepest loneliness. It doesn't come from lacking a companion, but from having someone there who does not truly listen. Many make excuses. I've lived with you so long, I know you completely. But the truth is, people change every day. Today's thoughts, feelings, and worries may be entirely different from 5 years ago. If you don't listen, you won't realize how your spouse has changed, how they have grown, or how they are suffering. The distance widens not from a lack of love, but from a lack of understanding. The Buddha taught one who knows how to listen is sowing seeds of compassion. When you listen with a peaceful heart, without judging, without cutting in, you give the other a priceless gift, recognition. They feel accepted, comforted, and know their voice has value. But if you only listen to reply, you unwittingly dig a deeper trench between you. That lack of listening becomes fertile ground for anger and resentment to grow. Try stopping and asking yourself, how long has it been since you truly sat down, set your phone aside, looked into your spouse's eyes, and just listened, without judging, without interrupting? Sometimes, one heartfelt listening session can heal more than 1,000 pieces of advice. In that moment, the other person knows they are cherished, and the distance shrinks with a single silence full of understanding. In an argument, you know clearly that continuing will only hurt you both. Yet the urge to prove your right to hold your ground keeps you from stopping. You won't accept losing because you think losing means weakness and loss of face. But do you realize that at that moment, happiness no longer matters? Instead, the ego is placed on the throne higher than love and peace. The ego in marriage is like a tall wall. Each time you insist on winning, another brick is laid. Over time, the wall grows so thick and solid that you forget that on the other side is the person you once loved and promised to journey with for life. You think you've won when you force the other into silence, when your logic leaves them speechless. But in truth, that is a bitter defeat. In that moment, you've lost connection and trust, trading love for an empty victory. The Buddha taught the greatest victory is victory over oneself, meaning if you can overcome your own ego, stop at the right time, yield a step to preserve happiness, that is the true victory. You might win an argument, yet lose a lifetime together. You might silence the other with logic, yet lose laughter, warmth, and peace in the family. Ask yourself, is winning really necessary? What do you gain by proving you're right, only to sit in a heavy cold house with two people turned back to back? On the other hand, when you set the ego down, you lose nothing and gain so much a lighter atmosphere, the other's respect, and more importantly, peace in your own heart. In marriage, the happy person is not the one who is always right, but the one who chooses love over winning. That person knows a single act of forbearance today can save the relationship tomorrow. And if you can conquer yourself, you will see the wall between you melt away, replaced by a bridge that brings two hearts closer. Anger in marriage never appears without cause. It always has roots, and four main causes often repeat: differences in views, pressure from work and finances, lack of listening, and an oversized ego. Each factor is like a dry stick. When piled up, they easily burst into flame. You see, differences of opinion aren't dangerous if they are heard and respected. If belittled, they turn into resentment. Work and financial pressures, if not shared, become excuses to vent on the closest person. Lack of listening hardens the heart, and an oversized ego turns you into someone who wants to win more than love. But you must also see clearly, anger is not an invincible enemy. It is not stronger than you. It is like darkness. And darkness, no matter how dense, can be driven away by a small light. When you are willing to light the lamp of understanding and compassion, anger will fade on its own. You don't need violence to fight it, nor suppression to push it down. With the light of mindfulness, the darkness will dissolve and peace will return to your home. Part 3. The consequences of anger in marriage. Anger in marriage is like a fire. At first, it may be only a small spark, but if not extinguished quickly, it will burn away trust, love, and the peace of the home. You may think anger is just a passing emotion, but in truth, each outburst leaves silent and lingering marks, gradually weakening the bond between husband and wife. I want you to imagine marriage is like a garden. If tended, it blooms and gives fragrance. But if you let the weeds of anger grow before long, the garden will be filled with thorns. The 4 greatest consequences of anger in marriage are emotional wounds and distance words that cut like knives, a heavy atmosphere that harms the children, and the loss of trust that slowly cools love. In an argument, people often believe that if they just let time pass, things will calm down and return to normal. But think carefully, is that really true? Time may blur many memories, but emotional wounds are different. They are like scars, carved into stone, no longer bleeding, but always present. Think back. Have you ever been hurt by words so deeply that you carried them your whole life? Or felt utterly alone because of a cold look from the very person you love most, right in your own home? These things, though, small, leave lasting imprints. Emotional wounds are not easily seen. They are not like physical injuries, where you see blood and know when they are healed. They are like cracks beneath the surface, slowly spreading and shaking the foundation. Each time you argue without repairing the damage, another invisible brick is added to the wall between you. Day by day, the wall grows taller and thicker. One day, you find yourselves standing on opposite sides, still under the same roof, but your hearts long apart. The Buddha taught a single harsh word can cause a wound that lasts a lifetime. Truly, the human spirit is fragile like water. Just a small stone can create ripples that shatter its calm. In marriage, the stones of anger blame sarcasm or cold silence, if thrown again and again, will make the once clear lake forever troubled. Peace, once precious, is replaced by restless waves waiting to erupt. You may wonder, why can people endure material hardship, lack of food, clothing, or hard work, yet find it so hard to overcome emotional pain? Because physical wounds heal with time, but inner wounds leave invisible scars. An insult can echo in the mind for decades. A cold act can make someone lose faith in lifelong love. Once the heart is cracked and trust eroded, the distance appears not only in words, but also in eyes that no longer meet in forced smiles and in silences heavy with emptiness. This is the devastating power of anger in marriage. It is not loud like a passing storm, but lingers like a cold wind that never ends. And if unnoticed, the distance will grow so wide that there may be no way back. Have you ever blurted out words in anger, only to regret them instantly because you knew you had deeply wounded your spouse? Some words once spoken are like sharp knives. You may retract them, but the wound remains, and the scar follows for life. In moments of anger, people lose clarity. You may spit out cruel words, cutting sarcasm, or painful comparisons. You're worthless. You're no different from a stranger. Such words may seem like a burst of temper, but they carry the weight of 1,000 pounds. The listener may choose to forgive, but the memory of those words remains in their heart forever. The Buddha once taught words can be pearls that lift us up or swords that kill love. This saying is not only a warning, but also a reminder of the immense power of speech. A gentle word can heal. A harsh word can destroy. When you speak in anger, you do not give your beloved a flower, you hand them a blade. And the cut can hurt more deeply than any physical wound. Imagine holding a glass cup and smashing it on the floor. It shatters. You can collect the pieces and glue them back, but it will never be whole again. Cracks remain, and the slightest touch can break it once more. Words in anger are like that. They leave cracks in the soul that time cannot erase. So ask yourself, is it worth it letting one moment of temper destroy what you've built with years of love and care? Is it worth it to win an argument but lose your spouse's heart? Words are a double-edged sword. If used wisely, they build a bridge. If uncontrolled, they dig a chasm. And once marriage is fractured by bitter words, it is very hard to return to what it was. Marriage is not just between two people. It is also the home for children. When parents are angry and argue, the atmosphere becomes heavy immediately. You may think children don't understand, but in fact, they feel it very clearly. Children who grow up in households full of quarrels often carry insecurity within. They learn that love equals yelling and blame. They may withdraw or conversely explode in anger, just as they have seen. Have you ever asked yourself, what are your children learning from the way you treat your spouse? The Buddha taught every action of parents plants seeds in the hearts of their children. If the seeds are anger and blame, how can sweet fruit ever grow? A child needs a peaceful atmosphere to develop. But if the family is always tense, the child will grow up with a soul full of cracks. A heavy family atmosphere is like a room without oxygen. You can live in it, but always feel suffocated. And the innocent children are the ones most affected. That's why every time you let anger spill out, you not only hurt your spouse, but also cast a long shadow into your children's hearts. Trust is the foundation of marriage. When trust is lost, love has nothing to hold on to. Anger, if repeated too many times, causes that trust to fracture. Your spouse no longer feels safe around you. They become cautious in their words and actions, afraid that even the smallest detail might ignite your anger. Do you see that when trust is gone, love also cools? Early promises become meaningless. Beautiful memories are no longer enough to keep them. Marriage then becomes like a cold house where two people live together, but their souls are strangers. The Buddha said, "There is no fire like the fire of anger, no loss like the loss of trust." Once anger becomes a habit, it burns away everything good that once existed. Love needs to be nourished with gentleness and empathy, but anger only brings dryness. And when the soil is dry, the seed of love cannot sprout. Ask yourself, is it worth it to trade a few minutes of temper for a lifelong love? Do you want to lose the person who was once your support just because you couldn't control a passing outburst? If not, then starting now, you must learn to let go of anger, to protect trust, and keep love warm. Anger in marriage is absolutely not a trivial matter to be brushed aside. It leaves deep wounds, silently destroying the foundation of love. It hurts the spirit and creates distance, leaving two people under one roof, but with hearts drifting apart. It turns words into sharp knives that once spoken are hard to take back, leaving scars that never fade. It makes the family atmosphere heavy, forcing children to live in insecurity, absorbing negative energy, and carrying it throughout their childhood. And in the end, anger destroys trust, causing love that was once passionate to grow cold and fade. But you must understand, clearly, anger is not an invincible enemy. It is only like darkness. Darkness has no real power. It exists only in the absence of light. Just one small candle is enough to drive away even the thickest darkness. Anger is the same. When you don't recognize it, it controls you. But when you are mindful, when you stop, when you look deeply, anger will gradually dissolve. The light that can dispel darkness is understanding mindfulness and compassion, as the Buddha taught. Understanding helps you see the root of anger, to realize your partner is also suffering. Mindfulness keeps you from being swept away by emotions, holding your heart steady before you speak or act. Compassion reminds you that your spouse is not your enemy, but the one walking with you on life's long journey. When you choose to light the lantern of understanding and compassion within yourself, anger will have no place to stay. Then your home will no longer be covered in the smoke of conflict, but will return to being a place of peace, love, and happiness. And you will realize that the greatest victory is not winning an argument, but keeping each other's hearts in peace. Part 4. The Art of Mindful Listening in Marriage. In married life, there is something that seems simple, but is actually the key to preserving happiness: listening. Not just listening with your ears, but with your whole heart. Listening with mindfulness. Because most anger arguments and distance in marriage arise from not being fully listened to. The Buddha taught one who knows how to listen is sowing seeds of compassion. And if those seeds of compassion are planted in the home, they will grow into understanding and eventually blossom into enduring love. In many conversations between spouses, you may think you are listening, but in reality, your mind is already chasing after how you will respond. The other person has barely spoken a few sentences, and you are already preparing your counter-arguments and reasoning to prove yourself right. In that moment, what could have been an exchange of empathy quickly turns into a debate. And in that debate, both sides want to win, but both lose because true connection is lost. In marriage, your spouse does not always need advice or solutions. More often, what they long for is to be listened to with genuine care. When they share their discomforts or express their sadness, what they need is the sense that their voice matters, that their suffering is understood. But if you only focus on finding points to refute, you are, without realizing it, dismissing their feelings. Each time this happens, their heart closes a little more, and over time, the distance between you grows. Listening to understand means asking yourself while you listen, what is this person going through? What do they really want me to feel? Holding that question in your heart, you realize that sometimes what they want is not a logical solution, but simply your warm presence. Just sitting quietly, opening your heart, showing them that you truly care. This alone can be a powerful support. Understanding has the power to soothe more than long explanations. A compassionate look, a gentle nod, or a simple phrase like "I know you're sad," or "I know you're under pressure," can sometimes heal faster than any argument. Because in that moment, your spouse knows they are not alone, that their suffering is shared. And that is the foundation of lasting love. In an argument, people often believe that whoever speaks more or louder is the winner. But stop and ask yourself, in a fight between husband and wife, does a winner really exist? You may win in logic, but looking back, you both lose in love. You lose because trust is cracked, hearts are hurt, and the distance between you grows. Silence in those moments is not weakness or surrender, but a great strength. Timely silence is like loosening a tight rope before it snaps. When emotions are high, words spoken are no longer objective truth, but sharp knives. The more you speak, the deeper the wound. But if you can stop and hold silence, you prevent countless unnecessary wounds. The Buddha taught silence is thunderous. This is not empty silence, but silence with wisdom, with mindfulness. Such silence has the power to shift an entire tense situation. It calms the anger within you, and also causes the other person to pause and reflect. Imagine two people standing in a smoke-filled room. If both keep fanning the fire, the smoke only thickens until neither can see. But if they stop open a window, fresh air comes in and the smoke fades. Silence during anger is like opening the window in the room of marriage. So instead of speaking more to claim victory, try choosing silence to preserve peace. Because in marriage, winning and losing are unimportant. What matters is protecting love and keeping warmth alive in both hearts. One major reason listening is difficult is that you tend to see everything only from your own point of view. You look with your eyes, think with your feelings, and then judge your spouse. You believe your perspective is right, your emotions are justified. But have you ever paused and put yourself in your partner's place to feel the suffering pressure and fatigue they endure? When you listen mindfully, you not only hear with your ears, but open your heart to see through your partner's eyes. You ask, if I were them, how would I feel? How would I endure? This shift in perspective opens compassion, helping you realize that often your spouse does not intend to hurt you, but is only reacting from their own pain. Take a simple example. When a wife complains that her husband does not care, you might hear it as blame. But if you place yourself in her position, you will see that hidden behind the complaint is a plea, I am tired, I need support. Similarly, when a husband snaps that his wife talks too much, you may see it as disrespect. But if you listen more deeply, the real message is I am under too much pressure. I just need a little peace. The Buddha taught understanding is the foundation of love. You cannot truly love if you do not understand. And understanding does not come if you stay only in your own position. It appears only when you have the courage to set aside the ego step to the other side and look at life through your spouse's eyes. When you do this, complaints become cries of the heart, and instead of responding with anger, you respond with compassion. While listening, you will not always remain calm. Sometimes words touch your own pain, stirring anger in you. At that very moment, the most important thing is to return to your breath. Breathing deeply is the simplest way to return to mindfulness. One breath, in one breath, out gentle yet powerful. It is like a glass of water that has been stirred. If you keep stirring it, it stays cloudy. But if you set it down and let it rest, it clears. Whenever emotions rise, stop, take a deep breath in, then exhale slowly. You will notice the anger settle a little, wisdom return a little. Then you can continue listening without turning yourself into a blazing fire. The Buddha taught, the breath is the anchor that holds the mind in the present. Practicing mindful breathing while listening prevents you from being swept away by emotions and keeps your heart calm. That calmness will spread to your spouse, softening the tension in the conversation. The art of mindful listening is not something distant or difficult. It exists in every moment of daily life. It comes from very practical steps anyone can practice listening to. Understand not to argue. Knowing when to stay silent instead of falling into conflict. Having the courage to step into your partner's shoes. And practicing deep breathing when emotions rise. These are not abstract theories, but real ways to preserve peace in the family. If you practice these consistently, you will realize an important truth. Anger has no power of its own. It exists only where there is no understanding and no empathy. Once the lamp of understanding is lit, anger has nowhere to stay. Like darkness, no matter how thick it must retreat, as soon as light appears. Understanding is that light, and compassion is the warmth that sustains marriage. Remember, a family home is never built on endless arguments or battles of right and wrong. Family happiness does not sprout from winning, but from listening, understanding, and love. Only when you put down your ego and truly listen to your partner's heart will the home become a peaceful place for both to return to. Mindful listening is not just opening your ears to words, but opening your heart to feel your partner's emotions, worries, and hopes. When you listen with heart, with full presence, and with love, you not only soothe anger, but also plant in your partner the trust that they are understood and cherished. And that is the strongest foundation to keep a marriage happy and lasting. Part 5. Practicing letting go of anger in marriage. In married life, anger is like fire. Once it flares up, it can burn away peace, collapse trust, and leave ashes that are hard to mend. You may have witnessed many times how just one word or one small action, when fueled by uncontrolled anger, can make everything far worse. The Buddha taught that anger is not the true nature of a person, but only a temporary state of mind. It comes and goes, like clouds drifting across the sky. The true nature of your mind is the vast sky, and anger is just a passing cloud. But if you don't recognize it, you mistake anger for your whole self, and you act in confusion. That is why practicing letting go of anger is an art. And that art is built on 4 steps: recognizing, pausing, looking deeply, and transforming with compassion and patience. The first thing you must learn is to recognize anger. It sounds simple, but in truth, it is very difficult. Because when anger rises, you are often swept away by it like someone caught in a flood. You no longer see yourself and anger as 2 separate things, they merge into one. But the truth is not like that. Anger is only a mental phenomenon. It comes and goes. It doesn't last forever. If you can see it like a cloud in the sky, you will feel lighter. A cloud may be dark and bring thunder and lightning, but it will eventually dissolve, leaving behind clear blue sky. Your mind is the same. When recognizing anger, you only need to call it by name. This is anger. Don't deny it. Don't suppress it, but also don't let it control you. Just like seeing a cloud, you don't need to push it away. You just observe and know it will pass. Have you noticed how sometimes you feel furious in the moment, but days later, when you look back, it no longer feels important? That proves anger is only temporary. So why let something temporary decide the long-term happiness of your marriage? The next step after recognizing anger is to pause. Because in the moment of anger, if you react immediately, you will almost certainly say or do something you will regret later. Remember, reacting instantly in anger is like pouring gasoline on a fire. The fire may be small, but just a little fuel can turn it into a blaze that is hard to extinguish. On the other hand, if you pause, say nothing, do nothing, the fire has a chance to die down on its own. Pausing does not mean suppressing. It means giving yourself space to breathe and calm down. You may step out of the room, take a few deep breaths, or sit quietly and drink some water. Just a few minutes can save a relationship from deep harm. The Buddha taught, in anger, don't say anything, don't do anything. Just breathe. Breathing is the bridge that carries you from anger back to mindfulness. One deep breath can stop a word that could wound for a lifetime. Ask yourself, how many times have you regretted the words you said in anger? And how many times have you wished that if you had just been silent for a moment, things would have been different? After pausing, you must look deeply to understand the root of the anger. Because if you only stop without understanding, the anger will return, perhaps even stronger, the next time. Anger never appears without cause. It always has a reason. Sometimes it is because you are tired or stressed, making you irritable. Sometimes it is because your spouse accidentally touches an old wound in your heart. Sometimes it is because of unmet expectations that leave you disappointed. When you look deeply, you see that your spouse may not have meant to hurt you. They may simply be expressing their own suffering or acting out of conditions that shape them. For example, when a husband is irritable, it may be because he is under heavy work pressure. When a wife complains, it may be because she feels lonely and needs support. If you look only at the surface, you see harsh words. But if you look deeply, you see the cry for help behind them. The Buddha taught, understanding is the foundation of love. You cannot truly love if you do not understand. And understanding comes from daring to look into the roots of anger instead of reacting only to its surface. The final step is transformation. Once you have recognized, paused, and looked deeply, you can replace an angry reaction with compassion and patience. Compassion does not mean ignoring all mistakes. It means looking at your spouse with understanding. You see that they are also suffering, and because of that suffering, they act the way they do. With compassion, you choose gentle words instead of harsh ones, supportive actions instead of hurtful ones. Patience is the strength that sustains compassion, because not every situation can be changed right away. Sometimes you must wait. Sometimes you must give your partner time. Patience helps you avoid rushing or forcing, and instead allows space for healing. You can try saying, I know you're sad, and I'll be here when you want to share. Or I know you're tired, and I'll give you time. These simple sentences have the power to soothe anger and restore trust. The Buddha taught one with compassion is never alone. When you practice compassion and patience, you not only help your spouse, but also help yourself. You turn anger into an opportunity to learn deeper love. Practicing letting go of anger is not something achieved overnight. It is a journey. That journey begins with recognizing anger as a passing cloud, continues with pausing to avoid immediate reaction, then looking deeply to see its root, and finally transforming it with compassion and patience. If you practice this consistently, you will see that anger is no longer a frightening enemy. It is just a cloud coming and going. And when you know how to light the lamp of understanding, use your breath, and open your heart with compassion, your family home will once again be filled with peace. Remember, in marriage, winning or losing does not matter. What matters is keeping each other's hearts. And hearts can only be kept with love, not with anger. Part 6. Nurturing understanding in marriage. In marriage, anger and misunderstanding often do not come from a lack of love, but from a lack of understanding. You may still love your spouse, but when you cannot understand their suffering, that love easily becomes a burden and turns into blame. That's why nurturing understanding is the way to protect and sustain family happiness. Nurturing understanding is not something far-fetched. It begins with simple steps, recognizing that everyone has their own suffering, remembering that the other person also needs love and comfort, asking yourself whether a conflict is worth trading your happiness for, and always being aware that life is fragile and not to be wasted on anger. One of the most important roots of nurturing understanding is to recognize an obvious truth that is often forgotten: no one lives without suffering. Your spouse is no exception. They may be silent and say nothing. They may never share everything, but deep down, they carry worries, hurts, and pressures you may not know about. Have you ever asked yourself, what has my spouse gone through today? Perhaps they faced work pressure, office stress, or injustices they had to swallow. Perhaps they are worried about finances, unpaid bills, or the family's future. When they come home, if they sometimes raise their voice or snap, it does not mean they no longer love you. Often, they are simply too tired, too stressed, and don't know how else to release it. The Buddha taught, when you understand another's suffering, you will no longer be angry with them. Indeed, when you look deeply and see the burdens they carry, the blaming gaze within you naturally softens. Instead of reacting with anger, you begin to open your heart to empathy. You realize that harsh words and heavy attitudes are often not a denial of love, but an outburst from an exhausted soul, a heart quietly calling for help. Conversely, if you refuse to look deeply, you will hastily conclude that your spouse is indifferent, cold, or has changed their feelings. Such thoughts are like dividing walls, causing you to close your own heart. And when both hearts close, the distance only grows. But if you can pause, observe, and look with compassionate eyes, you will clearly see your spouse is just a human being like anyone else. They have very real pains, silent tears, and invisible wounds. Understanding this, your heart softens. Instead of closing in anger, you open in empathy. And this opening of the heart becomes the foundation for nurturing family happiness. In marriage, many times, you focus only on your own needs. You want attention sharing, understanding. This is completely natural because everyone longs to be loved. Yet while waiting for love from the other, you forget that they need the same things. Your spouse, no matter how strong or resilient they seem, is not made of steel. Even the strongest person has moments of weakness, needs a shoulder to lean on, needs a look that tells them they are not alone. Think back. How many times has your spouse stayed silent all evening, saying nothing, yet their eyes showed fatigue? How many times have they forced a smile you knew was only a brittle mask for hidden sadness? In those moments, they do not need you to interrogate or lecture them. They need a small gesture, a gentle hug, a hand held, a soft phrase that lets them know you are still there, walking with them. The Buddha taught a gentle word can change someone's entire day. You may not be able to solve all your spouse's problems, but you can offer comfort. A simple sentence, I know you're tired. I'm here, or I see how hard you've worked. Let me help, can be worth more than 100 long pieces of advice. Because those words are not just sounds. They are messages of love, a lift for the spirit at a wavering moment. When you remember that the other also needs love, you naturally want to offer gentleness and care. And wonderfully, when you give, you also receive. Love is a two-way flow. When you soothe the other, you soothe yourself. When you help them feel safe, you strengthen the foundation of happiness for both. In marriage, love is not about grand promises. Often, it is contained in small moments like these: a hug, a gentle word, a sincere presence. These are the bricks that build a happy home. The more you remember that the other also needs love, the easier it becomes to sustain long-lasting affection. Whenever anger arises, try pausing and asking yourself, is this really worth losing our happiness over? This seemingly simple question holds great power. It is like cool water quenching a flame that has just flared up in your heart. Simply by asking, you will feel yourself soften because you begin weighing what you lose and what you gain in a moment of temper. In married life, countless conflicts begin from very small things. A dish not washed clean, a careless word, or a tiny habit can become the reason for an argument. But in truth, when you zoom out, none of these compare to the love and happiness you've built over years. When you exaggerate a small matter and turn it into an excuse to quarrel, it's like turning a grain of sand into a mountain. And while climbing that mountain, you lose the peace that once belonged to you and your spouse. Ask yourself, if tomorrow my spouse were no longer here, would the things I'm angry about still matter? Would an unwashed dish, a thoughtless remark, or a petty habit still carry enough weight to hold in my heart? The answer is surely no. When you lose your loved one, you see that all those things were fleeting, mere dust motes in a vast sky. The Buddha taught, do not lose the whole forest because of a single leaf. Marriage is an entire forest, a vast one of love attachment, sweet memories, and challenges overcome together. Do not let a flawed leaf, a small mistake, or trivial shortcoming blur your vision and make you forget the beautiful forest. Remember that happiness must be protected day by day. The best protection is letting go of what is not worth holding. When you ask yourself that question, you realize anger does not make you stronger. It only weakens love. Letting go of anger is not a loss. It is wisdom. In marriage, the true winner is not the best debater, but the one who knows how to keep happiness. Life truly is more fragile than we think. Every day, we hear of people who depart suddenly. Someone who laughed yesterday is gone today. They leave behind things, undone words, unsaid, hugs unshared. Yet many of us still waste precious time on pointless anger and needless arguments, only to taste regret when loss arrives. Have you ever stopped to think that one day your spouse will no longer sit beside you? When that day comes, you will see that yesterday's angers have no value at all. Will you still want to cling to old grievances and resentments? Or will you wish you had forgiven sooner, loved more, and cherished each small moment of married life? The Buddha taught, life is more fragile than breath. One breath, in one breath, out so simple, yet none of us knows how many remain. Why waste those precious breaths on anger? Anger brings no peace, no joy. It only erodes love and trust. If each breath is a gift, let us use it to love, to smile, to speak kind words instead of venting. When you truly see life's fragility, you learn to let go of small things. A careless word, an imperfect habit, a minor mistake all become tiny when placed beside the truth that life can end at any moment. You will choose peace over winning, choose to hold each other instead of pushing each other away. Then each day, together, is no longer a burden, but an invaluable gift, the gift of presence, of love, of companionship. In the end, what remains is not who was right or wrong, but who loved enough. And to love fully, you must let go of anger starting today, before it is too late. Nurturing understanding is the key that opens the door to happiness in marriage. Not wealth, not grand promises, but the ability to understand one another keeps a home enduring. This begins with recognizing that everyone has their own suffering. Your spouse, no matter how strong, has moments of weakness, needs arms to hold them, and a heart that understands. When you see their suffering, you won't blame, you will want to soothe. That understanding is also nourished when you pause in anger to ask, is this really worth losing our happiness over? That question helps you see what truly matters and what is just trivial debris. And when you realize that life is fragile, that each day together is a gift, you will not want to waste precious time on anger. You will want to use it to love, forgive, and appreciate. If you practice these things, anger will gradually fade like mist before the morning sun. In its place, your marriage will be nourished by empathy, compassion, and genuine love. That is the firm foundation and the warm flame that keeps a family home filled with peace and happiness. Part 7. Practicing forgiveness in marriage. In marriage, forgiveness is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Without forgiveness, you carry burdens and wounds in your heart and gradually turn love into a battlefield of blame. But when you learn to forgive, you free not only your partner, but also yourself. Forgiveness is the path that brings you back to peace and restores warmth to love. Practicing forgiveness has 4 steps. Step 1. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is putting down the burden. Many people mistakenly think forgiveness means forgetting everything, as if nothing ever happened. But memories do not disappear so easily. Wounds in marriage, a harsh word, a thoughtless act, may remain deeply etched in your mind. Forgiveness does not mean erasing the past. It means choosing not to let that past keep hurting you. To forgive is to put down the burden on your shoulders so you can walk more lightly. Imagine carrying anger like hauling a heavy stone on your back. The farther you go, the more exhausted you become, and the journey of marriage grows dark and heavy. Forgiveness does not erase the stone from memory, but it allows you to set it down. You still know the stone existed and caused you pain, but you no longer let it weigh on you. The Buddha taught, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal to throw at someone else first. You are the one who gets burned. This teaching cuts deep. Anger doesn't just hurt the other person, it hurts you first. Clinging to hatred is like clutching a glowing ember. You think you'll burn someone else, but in truth, your own hands are burning day by day. Forgiveness is letting go of that ember to free yourself. Ask yourself, do you want to live the next 10 or 20 years with a heart heavy with resentment? Do you want to be bound to the past, letting someone else's mistakes keep controlling your present happiness? Or do you want to set that burden down and move forward lightly, freely, and peacefully? Forgiveness doesn't change the past. What happened still happened, but it changes how you live in the present and how you open the door to the future. In marriage, forgiveness is an act of wisdom. It doesn't mean blindly overlooking everything. It means choosing a happier, more peaceful way to live. Forgiveness is telling yourself, I won't let yesterday's mistakes destroy today's joy and tomorrow's happiness. When you do this, you feel your heart grow light and love has a chance to be reborn. Step 2. Forgive to heal yourself. Forgiveness is not only a gift to your spouse, it is first a priceless gift to yourself. When you are angry, you are actually hurt twice. The first hurt comes from your partner's action, a careless word, a thoughtless deed, or some mistake that pained you. The second, deeper hurt comes from holding on to the wound and refusing to release it. You are the one letting old pain keep making you bleed. Notice how you sometimes sit alone, replaying your spouse's mistakes. And the more you think, the more your heart aches. You rerun old scenes and words as if rubbing salt into your own wound. This shows clearly that anger not only cracks the relationship, but also quietly damages your spirit day by day. Forgiveness here is not letting your partner off the hook. It is self-protection. It is how you bandage a spiritual wound so it doesn't get infected, spread, and turn into a pit too deep to fill. Forgiveness is giving your heart a chance to heal. Think of a cut on your skin. If you let dirt settle in it, it swells, festers, and hurts more. But if you wash it, dress it, and tend it carefully, it gradually closes and you recover. The soul is the same. When you hold on to anger, your inner wound worsens. When you choose to forgive, it is like cool water washing the wound of the heart, giving it a chance to mend and find peace again. The Buddha taught, forgiveness does not change the past, but it opens the door to the future. You cannot turn back time to prevent what happened, but you can choose not to let the past torment your present and future. Forgiveness is a courageous decision, courage to face the pain, to release it, and to welcome peace. Ask yourself, do you want to keep living with a heart full of wounds, or give it a chance to revive? Forgiveness is the key that opens the door to healing, so you are no longer a victim of the past, but the active creator of your own peace. Step 3. Forgive, so love has a chance to be reborn. No matter how beautiful, marriage will see cracks at some point. This is inevitable when two different people live together, bringing their personalities, habits, and flaws. But remember, a crack is not the same as a break. A cracked ceramic piece can be mended sometimes. When repaired with gold, it becomes even more precious. Forgiveness is that adhesive, the glue that reunites broken pieces so love can live again. Do you remember the beginning, when you and your partner first came together? Love overflowed, trust was deep, and hope shone in every glance and smile. Over time, life's pressures, friction, mistakes, and misunderstandings may dim that original light. If you hold on to resentment, love will die slowly, in silence, in blame, and in distance. If you forgive, that flame can be rekindled. In fact, after weathering trials, love can grow deeper and stronger because it has been tempered by hardship. Forgiveness is like tending a garden. If you focus only on weeds, the garden looks ugly and stifling. But if you pull the weeds, water patiently, and nourish each plant, flowers bloom again, and the garden comes alive. Marriage is the same. Anger and resentment are weeds. If you leave them, they overrun and choke the flowers of love. When you forgive, you are pulling those weeds, so love has soil to live in and space to grow and blossom again. The Buddha taught one who knows how to forgive, knows how to renew love. Forgiveness is not denying wrongdoing or pretending nothing happened. It means choosing to look beyond the mistake and to nurture what is good instead of being haunted by what is imperfect. By forgiving you, not only save a relationship in trouble, you help love mature, deepen, and endure. Ask yourself, do you want to clutch the shards of anger or use love to piece them into a new, more beautiful mosaic? Forgiveness is the decision to lay the foundation for happiness. Sometimes it is precisely through the cracks that love's light truly shines. Step 4. Forgive, because everyone makes mistakes. None of us is perfect. You, I, anyone including your spouse will make mistakes. Sometimes it's a careless word, a thoughtless act, or an immature decision. If you focus only on mistakes, everyone seems blameworthy. But with compassionate eyes, you see that error is part of being human, unavoidable in married life. Think of your own life. Haven't you said things that hurt others or done things you later regretted? If no one had forgiven you, then would you have had the chance to stand up and start again? Forgiveness you received from others is what helped you keep going and grow. So when it is your spouse's turn to stumble, why not offer them the same chance the Buddha taught anyone can fall? What matters is the chance to rise. Forgiveness in marriage does not mean agreeing with the mistake or belittling your own pain. It simply means not slamming the door shut. It means opening a door for the other to make amends. Forgiveness is also a gift to yourself, because when you open your heart, you give yourself the chance to keep loving and to be happy. If you don't accept that mistakes happen, you become harsh, setting perfect standards and demanding your partner meet them. But no one can live without error. If you cling to flaws, you turn marriage into a grueling contest where no one feels safe. When you accept imperfection, you appreciate your partner's efforts to change. Every small step deserves recognition. It shows they are trying for this love. Marriage is not the union of two perfect people. It is the journey of two imperfect souls learning to grow together. Forgiveness is the key that keeps that journey going, allowing both to move forward rather than being stuck in the past. When you understand this, your heart softens, harshness eases, and your love becomes deeper and more enduring. Practicing forgiveness in marriage is not easy, but it is the only path to lasting happiness. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is laying down the burden. Forgive to heal yourself, to give love a chance to be reborn, and because everyone makes mistakes. If you practice these 4 steps, anger will no longer rule your heart. Peace and love will return to nourish your home. Forgiveness frees your spouse, but first it frees you. Remember, happiness does not lie in never making mistakes, but in the capacity to forgive and love after mistakes. Forgiveness is the most solid foundation of a lasting marriage. Part 8. Building happiness, day by day. In marriage, happiness doesn't come from grand gestures, but from small habits repeated every day. People often think that to keep love's flame alive, you need lavish trips, expensive gifts, or sweeping vows. In truth, those are like flames that flare up and die quickly. What keeps the home warm over the long run are simple, steady actions. A thank you, a smile, a caring gesture, a quiet moment sitting together, a session of meditating together, a hand-in-hand walk, and concrete actions that nurture trust. Happiness is not a destination, it's a journey. And that journey is built day by day from the small things you choose to plant. When you're newly in love, sweet words come easily. Thank you comes easily. You smile at each other easily, and care is easily shown. A single message, a look, or a tiny gesture can make you happy. But over time, as marriage falls into the rhythm of work bills and responsibilities, you begin to take those things for granted. You forget to say thank you when your spouse cooks a meal every day. You forget to smile when you see each other after a long day. You forget to ask simple yet meaningful questions. Were you tired today? Or is there anything you want to share? These lapses, though small, slowly make a marriage stiff and distant. In fact, a thank you has more power than you think. It isn't just a polite phrase, it acknowledges the other person's effort. When spoken sincerely, it makes your partner feel valued, seen, and loved. A genuine smile does the same. It brightens a face and chases away weariness in the heart. And a well-timed question of care can become a spiritual anchor that helps your partner find the strength to get through a long day. The Buddha taught, a grateful heart is the foundation of happiness. When you cultivate gratitude, you realize your spouse is not a given. They are not obligated to stay by your side, to care for you, or to shoulder burdens with you. They are there because they love you, because they choose to walk with you. When you look at them with gratitude, you see they are a priceless gift in your life. And when you express that gratitude through words, smiles, and caring gestures, you are strengthening love at the roots, so it can stay green and bear fruit. Ask yourself, how long has it been since you looked into your spouse's eyes and said, "Thank you," or "I'm grateful to have you in my life"? Sometimes, a single sentence like that is enough to warm their heart after cold days. Happiness isn't in the big things, but in small, consistent habits. And thank you smiles and caring, these are the habits that nourish a marriage day by day. In modern life, we're often so busy that we lose the basics of sustaining a marriage. You spend hours on work, on your phone, on social media, but seldom offer undivided time to your spouse. Even sitting next to each other, many couples are lost in separate worlds, one scrolling a phone, the other drowning in worries and thoughts. Bodies are close, but hearts are far apart. If this invisible distance persists, it becomes a wall between you. Often happiness doesn't come from flowery words or grand actions, but from full presence. Just sit together in silence. No need to talk or explain. Simply feel each other's breath and presence. That alone can bring peace to the heart. Presence itself affirms, "I'm here with you," or "You're not alone." Ask yourself, when was the last time you and your spouse sat together without phones, without TV, without work distractions, just two hearts fully present? Perhaps it's been a while. And perhaps that is exactly what your marriage is longing for. Your partner doesn't need expensive gifts. They need you, your full presence. The Buddha taught, your presence is the greatest gift you can give. Simple, but profound. When you are truly present, your partner feels comforted, seen and heard, even without a word. Language can't always reach the depths of the soul, but sincere presence can soothe the loneliness words can't touch. Try turning off all devices, setting work aside, and sitting together for a few minutes each day. Just breathe together, smile at each other, or simply be silent together. Let that silence become the language of love. You'll see that sometimes in silence, two hearts connect more deeply than through 1,000 words. In marriage, not only love needs nurturing, both body and mind need care. One of the best ways to care for yourself while deepening your bond is to meditate together or take walks together. Imagine each morning the two of you sitting side by side, eyes closed, breathing slowly, releasing inner tension. Or each evening, walking hand in hand through the park, not rushing, just savoring the present moment. These simple moments plant fresh energy into your marriage. Meditation brings you peace, and when you are peaceful, you can offer that peace to your spouse. Walking together helps you relax, and with unhurried steps, two hearts can fall into the same rhythm. The Buddha taught walk in mindfulness. Each step is a homecoming. When you walk together mindfully, you are not only walking the path outside, but also the path that nourishes love. Ask yourself, why can you give hours to work and friends, but find it hard to give 20 minutes to meditate or walk with your spouse? In truth, these small moments are the glue that bonds you for the long term. Trust and love in marriage never exist by themselves. They are not pre-packaged gifts. They are like a garden that must be tended daily. If you neglect it, weeds will grow. If you don't care for it, flowers will wither. Trust and love are nourished each day by concrete, sincere actions. You cannot simply say, "I love you," and expect your partner to feel it. Love does not live in words alone. It lives in what you do. You need to prove love through small deeds. Keep your promises, even simple ones, like being home for dinner. Listen when your partner needs you, instead of letting your mind wander. Share life's burdens so they're not alone. Be present in hard times, because it is in adversity that love is truly tested. Trust is the foundation of marriage. If that foundation shakes, the house of love wobbles. Trust cannot be sustained by promises alone. It requires clear, consistent, repeated actions. When you keep even a small promise, your partner knows they can rely on you. When you act kindly every day, love becomes a steady current, not loud, but never running dry. The Buddha taught true love is nourished by understanding and action. This reminds us that if love stands still in words, it will dry up like a river that isn't replenished. But if love is nourished with concrete actions, a warm look, a hand held tight, timely sharing it grows sturdier, like a tree watered and cared for each day. Ask yourself today, what have I done to make my spouse feel loved and secure? The answer need not be grand. It could be washing the dishes after dinner so they can rest a few minutes. It could be listening without interrupting when they talk about a hard day. It could be laying a gentle hand on their shoulder and saying, "I'm here," or "I'm always by your side." These seemingly small things are powerful because they show that you don't just say, "I love you." You live that love through action. Building happiness in marriage is not something you do once and you're done. It's a process repeated every day. Happiness is like a garden tended today and flowers bloom. Neglect it and weeds spread quickly. Small habits, a thank you, a smile, a caring gesture are the foundation of connection. Don't treat them as givens. Sometimes a single smile or well-timed thank you can dispel an entire day's fatigue. Spending time together in silence is a deep form of connection that many people forget. You don't need long conversations, just be there together. In peace, breathe together, sit side by side without phones or work. That alone lets the heart feel we truly have each other. Meditating together and walking together care for the body and nourish the soul. In each slow step, in each mindful breath, you and your spouse return to yourselves and to each other. These seemingly simple moments become the golden threads that weave a durable marriage. Above all, trust and love must be fed by concrete actions. Trust is the foundation. If it shakes, the whole house tilts. Loving words have meaning only when paired with deeds, keeping promises, listening when needed, sharing burdens, showing up in hard times. These clear, consistent actions are the waters that help the tree of love grow strong. Then marriage is no longer a burden, but a beautiful journey. Each day, you can plant happiness with the smallest seeds, a smile, presence, a shared step, a kind act. Over time, you'll see that happiness isn't far away or found in grand gestures, It lives in each moment you and your spouse cherish and nurture this love. Part 9. Applying the Buddha's teachings in marriage. In married life, anger often comes like a storm. It can erupt from very small things, an unguarded word, an unintended action, or a misunderstanding not yet clarified. Yet the consequences are anything but small. Anger can break trust, crack love, and make the home heavy. That is why the Buddha's teachings on anger are especially meaningful in marriage. The Buddha taught anger is the fire that burns up merit. Imagine this: you spend years planting and watering a garden of love. Kind gestures, gentle words, quiet sacrifices, all are the merit you accumulate in marriage. But a single, uncontrolled outburst, like a sudden blaze, can burn that garden down in an instant. After a quarrel, all the good that came before seems to vanish, leaving only coldness and distance. Anger is like a fire that burns not only what is present, but also the carefully cultivated trust of the past. In marriage, merit is the loving seeds you plant each day. When anger flares, those seeds are scorched, and what remains is ash. Therefore, learning to manage anger is not just about keeping your own peace. It is about protecting what you have built in love. A wise person is not someone who never gets angry, but someone who knows that anger only brings suffering. They can recognize anger rising, yet do not let it take over and control them. Have you ever held on to anger for a long time? At first, you think you're teaching the other a lesson, but the longer you hold it, the more tired you feel. Your mind grows heavy. Your sleep becomes restless. Meanwhile, the other person may have already forgotten the incident. Only you keep clutching the flame in your heart. In the end, holding anger only makes you suffer more. The Buddha taught that anger is like holding a hot coal to throw at someone else. Before it reaches them, your own hand is burned. The wise understand this and do not hold on to anger. They know that letting go is saving themselves, freeing the heart from an invisible burden. Ask yourself, do you want to live lightly or carry the weight of anger on your shoulders for life? The answer is surely that you want peace. And peace only comes when you learn to let go. Many people mistake letting go of anger for weakness, for not standing up for oneself. But the truth is the opposite. Holding anger is far easier. Letting it go requires far greater strength. When you are angry, it's easy to follow instinct, shout, argue, blame. That is the natural reaction. But to stop to take a deep breath, to choose silence instead of striking back, that is the act of inner strength. Only those who are truly steadfast and truly wise can do it. The Buddha taught, the greatest victory is victory over oneself. In marriage, defeating your spouse in an argument does not bring happiness. The true victory is to defeat your own ego, to stop before words become blades that wound your partner's heart. Consider this: do you want to be weak, allowing anger to control you, or strong, able to master yourself and protect your love? Strength does not lie in shouting louder, but in keeping calm in the storm. Marriage is not sustained by initial feelings alone. It is nourished by compassion and letting go. Compassion is the ability to understand and to love, to see the other's suffering. Letting go equanimity is the ability to release, not nitpick, not hold on to small faults. Imagine love as a tree. If the roots are weak, the tree falls in a storm. If the roots are strong, it stands firm in the wind. In marriage, those roots are compassion and letting go. When you understand and love, you blame less. When you can let go, You don't let small mistakes ruin great love. The Buddha taught, a heart full of compassion is the foundation of lasting happiness. Enduring love does not come from flowery promises, but from understanding and release. When you nourish these roots, marriage grows steady and love endures. Applying the Buddha's teachings in marriage means learning to view anger with wisdom. Anger is the fire that burns merit, so you must be mindful not to let it flare. The wise know anger brings only suffering, so they choose to let it go. Letting go is not weakness, it is the greatest strength. And for love to last, you must nurture the roots of compassion and letting go. You might ask, how can I practice this? The answer is close at hand in your daily life. By practicing slower breathing, practicing listening, practicing letting go of small things, and practicing compassion, you are step by step applying the Buddhist teachings to build a stable marriage. Remember, love does not endure by avoiding all conflict, but by knowing how to pass through conflict with compassion and release. This is the path to a home full of peace, love. Throughout this journey, we have revisited the roots of anger in marriage and how to apply the Buddha's teachings to transform it. The Buddha taught anger is the fire that burns merit. A small flame, if unchecked, can burn down a home. But if you learn to let go, to practice listening, forgiveness, and compassion, you will see that happiness does not lie in who is right or wrong, but in your ability to keep peace in your heart. A lasting marriage is not one without conflict, but one that moves through conflict with wisdom and love. When you understand that letting go of anger is not weakness, but strength, you will find love growing deeper and more connected. And when love is nourished by small daily actions, by compassion and letting go, it becomes a cool stream that sustains both of you for life. Dear friend, if these reflections touch your heart, I invite you to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds. Click like, share to spread the message, and leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Perhaps your own experience will become an inspiration to others on the journey back to peace in love and marriage.